Hi crafters, this is Nye with All Things Were Created. Today, this video will be a design space tutorial for cutting the Let It Snow Winter Sled file. This file is pretty large and with lots of different elements. Plus, we're going to be scoring a few things, duplicating a few things, and so I just thought that this video tutorial and explanation would be a little bit easier and best. So let's get started. First thing is first, make sure that you have your software open and you're on a brand new blank canvas. Then you want to take your mouse and you want to come over to the left side of your screen and scroll until you see the upload button and then click it. This will now bring us into our where we would have all of the files in our software. We want to click Upload Image again. And what we want to do is browse and find where the actual file downloaded from the website. So click Browse, and then my folder is already ready to go. So I clicked on it, and once I opened up my folder, what I can see now are the 4 different file types. One will be the PNG, one will be the DXF, one will be the EPS, and then the SVG has SVG written at the end of the file name, and it's the one that also looks like the HTML. It has the HTML icon on it. So that's the one we're going to click, and then we want to click Open, and it will bring it to the preview of the file in the software. And then we want to click Upload, which is down towards the lower right corner of your screen. And now that will actually bring it into your Design Space account. Click the file itself, and then click again in the lower right corner of your screen, Add to Canvas. And then that will now upload the design into and onto your canvas. And you can see that once it does, it's huge. We don't need to rescale anything unless you maybe wanted to make it a little bit smaller. Leaving it the way it is, the design will actually be about 16 inches long in height. And I think it's about maybe 9.5 inches in width. So because it's so huge, I'm actually going to zoom out just a little bit so I can see everything. And that was more than what I needed, but I'll let it go. My computer just glitched as I was moving the design there. So what we want to do now that it's there and it's on the canvas is we want to click it once, and we're going to ungroup it over here at the upper right. We're going to just click that button there that says ungroup. And so what you can also see now is even though we've ungrouped it, the different parts of the design are actually grouped together. We're not going to go through and ungroup all of those just yet because what we want to do is just ungroup them as we go so everything just doesn't get complicated. So I'm going to now go through and hide a few things. The first thing that we're going to cut are the dark brown parts of the sled, which is the back here. I don't know what they would call this, maybe the feet of the sled. So I will go through now and hide some of the other elements that I'm not ready to cut yet. So I will do that by coming over to the right side of my screen here on the layers panel, and I will see this little eyeball pop up. I'm going to click that to hide it. And then I'm going to scroll a little bit further, and the next one will be the screws. I'm actually not going to hide those because I'm going to cut part of that first. I'm going to hide the big snowflake and then the mittens, and scroll a little bit more and hide the smaller snowflakes, and then the sign, and then the second sign, and also the tan part of the railings I'm going to hide, and the top part of the sled, and then the sled body itself I'm going to hide. So what I'm left with now are the 2 parts of the sled feet. These both, if I select them, they're both grouped together. I'm going to come over here and I can see that it's selected here. I'm going to ungroup that once. And that will now allow me to click them, each foot of the sled individually. I'm going to come back again and I'm going to select one side and then I'm going to ungroup it again once as well. And then I'm going to select the other side of the foot and I'm going to, that kind of came off my screen there. I can see that it's selected. I'm going to click ungroup again once. And so now what I can do is I can move these parts of the feet. And so I'm going to now rearrange them on my mat. I'm going to change this one I'm going to rotate them to 90 degrees and put this one up here. And so right in the corner. Then I'm going to grab the next one, rotate it 90 degrees, and put that one right beside it. Then I'm going to take the other two parts. I'm going to select them both at the same time by using my mouse and dragging the box, and then I'm going to rotate them 90 degrees as well. So for the feet of the sled, what we want to do is we're actually going to duplicate this and cut it out twice, so that way we will be able to add a little bit of thickness to the foot of the sled, because one piece might just get a little flimsy, and as it's hanging on a wall, it might start to bend because it doesn't have the support that it needs. So I'm going to select these two parts, the lower part of the feet of the sled, and come over to the layers panel again, and I'm going to click duplicate. And it duplicated it for me, and now I'm just going to slide it right underneath there. And the upper part of the feet, I'm going to select them both again by dragging a box around the elements. They're both selected, and I'm going to duplicate them as well. And I'm going to zoom in now a little bit so I can see everything, because I want to push everything in as tight as possible so I don't get bumped off by the software as I go to cut. So I'm going to move this one in there and this one in there. So I'll be using a 12 by 12 inch cardstock, brown cardstock, to cut this. So here's my 12-inch mark, and I can come over here and I can see that this is where my 12-inch mark is going to be on this part. So I'm really going to have to push these in a little bit more because I know that I can get them all to fit. See if I move over. Okay, so now I do have a bit more room. Move them over as tight as possible. Let me bring these two up even more. And this one, move it up a little bit more. And then these two, move them in there. I'm going to move the screws down here just for a moment. And this one, I'm actually going to rotate back to 0. I can put it right in there. And will I make it? Yes, because I still have room right underneath. So I'm going to grab this one and put it right there. And now what I'm also going to do is I'm going to select my screws because I'm going to position those as well. And they're both selected. I'm going to ungroup them because they're both grouped together as one file element. I'm going to ungroup them once. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come over here and hide the lighter tan part by clicking on the eyeball. So hide that there, hide it for the second one. And now I'm going to take my circles and just put them in here as well. So now those are ready. So the last part before I can go to cut this is I need to now change these lines along the feet of the sled to score lines, because if I leave them the way that they are, it's actually going to cut off these square areas, and I don't want them to be cut off. So I'm going to select it, and now it'll bring me back over here on my layers panel. It will show that it has selected that part of the file. I'm going to click the line and come over and score it by clicking on the operation and then clicking score. And I can see that it changed because now it's a dashed line over here, and it's also a dashed line on the canvas. Select the next one, come over to this part on the layers panel, click the line, and then go back to operations and score. And again, you can see the dashed line. I'm going to do that for the next part again. Select the actual line and then click score. And this one didn't do it, this third one here. So I'm going to come back over here, select it, select the line, come back and click score. So those 4 are good. This one, I'm going to select the line and click score. And for the next one, select the line and then click score. And this one, select the line and click score. And now for the last one, select it, come over to the layers panel, click the line and click score. Okay, so I can see that they're all scored here. I have my 2 circles for the screw. What I'm ready to do now is I'm going to select all of the different elements on the board, on the canvas, by dragging my mouse and creating a box and letting go. And then I'm going to right click in the box and select attach. And then I'm ready to click make it. I can also see that it attached here, so I know that it's good to go. And then I'm going to click make it. I've come to my mat preview and I can do a quick double check here to make sure everything's going to fit on my 12 by 12 canvas. You can see the software border lines here, the red one. Everything will fit, so I'm good to go. It looks good there. Check over at the left part of your screen to make sure that you're going to get a score and a cut. My mat is 12 by 12 inches, and I'm going to click continue in the lower part of my screen. And as you know, my computer always takes a while to connect, but there it goes. I'm going to cut this one on a regular 80-pound cardstock. It's going to be brown. I'm going to go load my machine, and once it tells me that I'm ready to go, I'm going to press go, and then I'll meet you back on the canvas for the next part. Okay, so I cut the feet of the sled off. I'm back on my main canvas where I started, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click what I cut, and I'm actually going to press the back button. This will unattach. Did it do it? No. This will unattach the elements from the canvas, and it will also return all of the different colors to the file. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to select the feet by just dragging another box, select the feet of that I just cut, and I'm actually going to delete them. I like to delete things as I cut them out, especially on big files, so that way I know that I have already cut them and I don't end up doing it twice, and it'll also start to reduce the elements on my layers panel so I don't get as confused either. So I'm going to select my delete button, and then I'm going to delete this one as well. And now for the screws, I'm going to come over and select both of these. Because I did not ungroup them when I first cut them out, I can't delete them right away because it will delete the upper part of the screw as well. So I'm going to come over, select the screw bottom parts, and I'm going to ungroup them now. So ungroup that one, then select the other one and click ungroup. And now what I can do is I can select both of them. You can see on your screen right here and right here that the upper part of the screw is still there, but I'm going to delete. Okay? So now I'm back to a blank canvas. The next part I'm going to cut out are the snowflakes. So even though everything is grayed out, I can still see that this part here is one of the snowflakes. So I'm going to unhide it by clicking the eyeball. And then this part up here is going to be my ribbon. So I'm going to scroll a little bit further. I can see that these are my mittens. And here, this will be a group of the snowflakes. I'm going to click the eyeball again to unhide them. And I'm going to grab it and bring it up here so I can see everything. There are also snowflakes on the sign parts as well. So I'm going to look through the sign, and I'm going to unhide the sign so I can see it. There's my snowflake. I'm scrolling along on my canvas too so I can see everything. And I'm also going to go through and just click ungroup now. So I selected the sign. I'm going to click ungroup. So that ungrouped everything. And I'm going to go through now and hide the non-snowflake parts of the sign. So that's there. And then this is my second sign right here. So I'm going to click unhide by clicking the eyeball, and I'm going to drag this over again so I can see. Click the sign, then click ungroup again in the upper right corner of your screen, and that will ungroup it all. This one has 2 snowflakes, and then I'm going to hide the non-snowflake parts of the sign by just clicking the eyeball. And then that will be it for all of my snowflakes. So I'm going to move everything up a little bit because remember, I like to smush things in. This one is grouped together, so I'm also going to ungroup this one as well by clicking the ungroup button over underneath the layers panel. So now all of my snowflakes are ungrouped. I'm going to take my big snowflake and bring it over into the corner, and now just rearranging the snowflakes to cut. Since I'll be using glitter cardstock for this part, I like to save some of my glitter cardstock because I don't always have lots of it. So I'm just going to bring everything in as tight as possible here so I can save as much of my glitter cardstock as possible. Let's bring this one up a little bit further, and there. Okay, so I have them all where I want. Again, I'm going to take my mouse and drag a box across all of the pieces. It created the box. I'm going to right click inside that box, then click attach, and that looks good. It says attach over here underneath my layers panel, so I know I'm good to go. And then I'm going to click make it again. And I can see everything looks good on my preview mat. I might try and just move things over a little bit more. I won't be able to because I attached it. That's right. Okay, well, that's all right. It all looks good. I'm going to, my operation says basic cut. I'm going to be doing on a 12 by 12 inch mat. So now I'm ready to click continue. And because I'm using glitter cardstock, I'm also changing the setting of my machine to a custom setting. And if my machine would connect, it's taking a while. Okay, there it goes. And so what I will do now is I will click glitter cardstock, and my mat is loaded. And so I'm ready to press go and wait for it to cut. And I'll meet you back on the canvas for the next part. Okay, so I finished cutting out the snowflakes. Everything worked great. I'm back on my canvas now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the elements, and then I'm going to come up to the top and hit the undo button to undo the attaching to the canvas. And I can select all of the snowflakes individually. What I'm going to do is take my mouse, drag another box, and again, I'm going to delete the snowflakes. And now I'm ready to cut the next part. I think the next part I'm going to cut is the actual body of the sled. So I'm over here on my layers panel. I'm using my scroll bar, and I know that that's towards the bottom. So I'm going to scroll to the bottom and look for that sled. Here it is, and click the eyeball to unhide it. And that's perfect. This is going to use a 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock. But what we're also going to do is, in order to make it a little bit sturdier and having more support, we're going to cut this out twice. So I don't have to do anything to this part. I'm just going to go ahead and click make it. And I can see my mat preview. Everything looks good. I can see that it's going to do the cut, and then it already has my mat size here. I'm going to now click continue again. And I have it loaded in my machine already. So it's going to cut on a tan 80-pound cardstock, 8.5 by 11 cardstock. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit go and let it cut through. And then before I even go back to my canvas, I'm going to load another mat right away and just hit go so it actually cuts it out twice for me. Okay, so you do that as well, and then I'll meet you back on the canvas and we'll cut out the next part of the sled. Okay, so I cut out the sled body twice and it's good to go. Since nothing is attached here on my canvas with this part, I'm just going to select it and then delete it from my canvas. And so the next part that I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out the arch part of the sled. And I can see it right here on my layers panel. I'm just going to click the eyeball to unhide it. So I can see it there. And I'm also going to cut out the I don't know what this part is called either. The back part of the sled that you can usually see through, I think they're like the railings. I can see them right above the arch of the sled, so I'm going to click the eyeball and unhide that. Did it do both of them? Yes, there it is. I forgot they were grouped together. And then I'm also going to come back up to the top and find the screws again, and I'm going to unhide those as well. So those two. And that's it for this one. So because I duplicated the feet and I also duplicated the sled for sturdiness, I'm going to duplicate the arch of the sled and the railing part of the sled. I won't need to do it for the screws, so I'm going to select both of those, and then I'm just going to put them off to the side right here until I'm ready. These I'm also going to cut on a 8.5 by 11 cardstock, but I'm not going to rotate them. I'm just going to put this one up here as close to the top as possible. And I'm going to come over to the layers panel and I'm going to duplicate that as well. So I have to remember that I can only go to about 8.5 here. And now I'm going to select the railings. I'm going to ungroup them. And then I'm going to bring them in as close as possible to each other. Then I'm going to select them both and duplicate those as well. And so I'm going to put them right there. And then I'm going to grab the other two and bring them in right there, right underneath. I'm going to take the arch of the sled and bring it up just a little bit so I don't get bumped off. And that should be good, right? Oh, maybe. I might have to. Let me zoom in just a little bit so I can see it better. It might be at the 9 right here, the 9-inch mark. So it might not work. Oh, no, I have room at the top. So let me grab everything by using my mouse and selecting and then bring it up higher. That should be good now because I can tell that it's a little bit closer right there. Let me grab the 2 screws and then I'm going to bring them in so that way they cut on the mat. And just to be sure, I'm going to actually grab the 4 railing. I'm just going to use my keyboard up arrow and move them up just a little bit. The last thing you want to do is when you actually cut, you've missed it by just a hair and then you have to recut. That's always the worst. I've had that happen to me and I don't like it. So I'm going to bring everything in a little bit tighter, give it a tighter fit there. And now I'm really good. Okay, that's perfect. So I have everything positioned the way that I want. I'm going to use my mouse and create my box again to select them all. Right click in the box and then click attach. And I can see it attached here on my layers panel. I'm going to click make it and check everything out on the map preview. So I'm going to take my 10 8.5 by 11 cardstock, and this one I'm going to set it up on my mat in a landscape position. And I can see that everything is going to fit. It's going to do my cut and my material size. I'm good to go. I'm going to click continue and wait for my machine to connect to my computer again. This one is just going to get cut on an 80-pound cardstock as well. It's the same as the sled. And there it goes. I already have it loaded in my machine, and so I'm going to press go. And then I will meet you back on the canvas again for the next cut. Okay, so I just finished cutting out the upper sled arch, the railings, and the screws. It cut beautifully. Everything looked good. So I'm going to come back over now and I'm going to select these elements, and somehow it got shifted there. I can see that it says attach. I'm going to come over to the undo button and click that to unattach it from my canvas. And once again, I'm going to select all of these pieces and then I'm going to delete them. And so for the next part, let's see what's left to cut. I think I have the signs and the mittens, and that's it. Let's cut out the signs part first, because then we can do some of the ribbon pieces as well. So let's start with the back part of the sign. So even though I can't fully tell what's what because it's hidden, I can see that this part here is the upper part of the sign that has the letters and the words on it. And then this part will be the middle right underneath it. And then this lower one underneath will also be the back. That's where I'm going to start first. So I'm going to select the eyeball to unhide that. And then I'm going to come up a little bit more. Again, there's 3 parts to the sign. So I can see that this part is the words. This part will be the middle, that's white. And then this part will be the back. For you guys, you won't have to cut out both of them, but I'm going to cut them both out at the same time so that way you can see them both. So I have both back pieces here. I'm going to grab them. They're already ungrouped. So I'm going to grab them again. I'm going to be using an 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock here. I'm going to bring them in and smush them in as tight as possible. And I'm also going to come up to the top and cut one of the ribbon pieces. For the ribbon pieces, what I'm going to do is I'm going to coordinate the ribbon to match the sign. So I will be using 3 pieces of the ribbon for a pattern cardstock, and then 1 piece of the ribbon will match this back part of the sign, and then the other piece will match the top part of the sign. So I'll have a light blue, a dark blue, and then my pattern of cardstock that I'll be using will be a snowflake pattern. So I put my 2 back pieces of the sign together. I'm going to come up and ungroup all of the ribbon pieces because they're all grouped together. And I'm going to select it and it's off to the side. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I moved it there, but I'm going to zoom out because I want to bring it in as close as possible. And while I have it like this, I am actually going to go through and score. Well, I'll do it individually in case some of you pop onto the video only for certain sections. So I will leave it here like this, but I will ungroup them. And I only need 1 piece, so I'm going to hide the rest of them by just clicking the eyeball for all of them until I'm left with only 1 on my screen. So that is, and then there's the last one. I think I had 7 of them, but I think I only really need 5. So I might have to delete them. I can't remember how many there were as I deleted. Well, that's okay. I might have to delete it before I give you guys the file. So I'm going to select this one here, the one that I have left, and I can see that it also has a line right down the center. That's going to need to be scored because what we want is for it to fold in half because it'll just help us with precision and how the bow will look. So I selected it. I'm going to come over to where it highlighted in my layers panel, and that line right down the center, I'm going to select that on my layers panel, come back over into the operations and change it to a score. And I can see that it made a dashed or a jagged line. I'm going to select both of those and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees because I'm using by just adding the 9 up here at the top to make it 90 and then selecting enter. And then I'm rotating it because I'm going to be using an 8.5 by 11 cardstock to cut. And that all looks good. Everything is smushed in as tight as possible. I can tell that I'm going to be within my 8.5 by 11. I'm going to use my mouse and make my box again around all the elements. Right click in the box and then click attach. And then I'm going to click make it. And everything looks good again on this part. I can tell that it's going to do the score and the basic cut. And I'm on my 12 by 12 inch mat. And then I'm going to click continue. And this part will use again, an 80-pound cardstock setting to cut. And I'm waiting for my machine to connect. I do have my mat already loaded and ready to go. And it's taking a while. Okay, there it goes. And so I'll hit the go and then to start the cut, and then I'll meet you back on the canvas for the last part, or for the next part, not last. Okay, so I'm back on my canvas, everything cut out just the way I wanted. I am again going to select the elements and then click undo. to unattach everything from my canvas. And then I'm going to grab these 3 elements and again, just delete. So for the next part of the sign, I'm going to cut the part with the letters. I'm going to leave that middle section towards the end when I'm cutting the mittens because I think I'll be able to fit the white part of the mittens on with the middle section. So I'm going to find the part that has the words, which is right here, and then I'm going to click the eyeball to unhide it. And again, I'm going to find the second part of the sign, click the eyeball to unhide it as well. I'm going to grab both of these and bring them up into the corner. And then I'm also going to need another ribbon piece because this will be, so that was my light blue that I just cut, and this will be my dark blue one that I'll be cutting for that part of the cloud. So I've positioned them where I want. I'm going to scroll back up towards the top and unhide another ribbon piece. Okay, I'm just moving it, and then I'm going to find that line in the center and select it on my layers panel. Come over to operations and click the drop down menu and then score that center line. And I can see that it changed on the actual element and at the layers panel. I'm going to select it, and then I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees by adding the 9 up at the top to make it 90, and then enter. I'm going to bring it in right there and make a box around all 3 to select them all. Right click in the center, click attach. I can see the attach worked in my layers panel, and then I'm going to click make it. And once again, everything looks good on the matte preview part. I can see that it's going to cut and score, and I'm on my 12 inch by 12 inch, and then click continue and wait for my computer again to make that Bluetooth connection there. And this will also be cut on an 80-pound cardstock. I do have it loaded in my machine, and it's ready to go. Okay, there, my machine is going now. Oh, I guess I didn't put it in all the way. Okay, well, it's going to cut 80-pound cardstock, and I'll load my mat, and then once I get my go, I'll press that, and I'll meet you back on the canvas for the next part. Okay, so I'm back on my canvas. I have selected my pieces that I just cut. I'm going to click that undo button over here to unattach, and I can see that my elements are there. I'm going to grab all 3 of them and then just press the delete button. So the next thing I'm going to cut out are the ribbon pieces, just the 3 ribbon pieces of my on my pattern cardstock. So I'm going to come over back to my layers panel and find 3 of the ribbon pieces, and I'm going to select the eyeball to unhide them. So that's 1, 2, and 3. I did have an extra 2 there. So I'll have to remember to delete those from the final file. I'm going to just bring them over here like this and smushing them in. And what I now need to do is change those lines on all 3 of those to score lines. So I'm going to select the first one up top. In the layers panel, I'm going to find that center line, click that, and then go back over to operation and click score. And I can see that it changed. I'm going to select the second one, click the center line as well, and come back over and select score. And for the third one, I'm going to select that center line as well, and then come back over and score. And all 3 of those are ready. Once again, make the box, right click, attach, click make it. There, everything looks good on the mat. Score and basic cut are the operations. I've got a 12 by 12 inch mat, and I'm going to click continue. And wait for my computer again to connect. I don't think I have this part loaded yet. I don't. But I'm going to load my mat and press go, and then I'll meet you back again on the canvas for cutting out the mittens and the last part of the sign. Okay, so I'm now back on my canvas. I cut out the my pattern cardstock ribbon pieces. I'm going to select these 3 and I'm going to click undo to undo that attach. It doesn't look like it worked. So I'm going to select it again and then click undo. There it goes. Grab all 3 of these and delete them. And so I still have 2 more ribbon pieces. I think I had originally designed it with 7. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in now and delete those because I really don't need them. You guys won't get 7, you'll get 5. And what I'm left with now are the mittens and the middle insert part of these signs. So I'm going to go through and unhide everything this time. Well, you know what? I won't unhide everything. Let's just cut out the red part of the mittens. So I have the mittens. I'm just bringing it a little closer in. I'm going to select ungroup and let's see what happens. So each mitten is grouped together. And then you have the cord for creating a corded mitten. I'm going to now ungroup each mitten individually. So I selected that one. I'm going to come back over to the layers panel and ungroup, and then select the other mitten and then ungroup that as well. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hide the white part of the mittens. So if you want, you can separate them so that way it's easier for you to see what's available on the canvas there. And I'm going to hide the white part of the mittens by clicking the eyeball in the layers panel. So I have that one selected, hiding, and then this one I'm hiding as well. And this part can also be cut on a 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock. I'm going to just bring everything in here and let's try it this way because that cord might get a little tricky. That should fit. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit as well so I can get a better view. Yep, there we go. Just bring that one over a little bit further and there. And then the second part of the mitten right there and right there. And that's that. And so once again, I'm just going to right click to drag my mouse and to create that box around all of them. Right click in the box, click attach. And this one I think should be fine to cut on the regular setting, but I'm going to click make it. And it looks good on my map preview, and I can see that it's just going to do a cut, nothing needed to be scored. And then I'm going to click continue, wait for that connection again. And then, yes, I don't think this one's going to need to have an intricate cut. I think the design will be big enough that the machine should cut it just fine, but I will let you know after it cuts. I'm going to load my machine with a red 8.5 by 11 cardstock and press go once my button lights up. And then I'll meet you back on the canvas for finally the last part of the cut. Okay, so now I'm back on my canvas. It did cut just fine using the regular 80-pound cardstock setting, so it did not need the intricate cut. I have selected what I just cut. I'm going to come up to the left part of the screen there and select the undo button. And then once again, I'm just going to grab all of those elements and then delete them from my screen. And all that I'm left with now is the white parts of the design. So I'm just clicking the eyeball to unhide them all. And this can also be cut on 8.5 by 11 cardstock. I know that the colors might be a little different. It was just so that way when I was designing, it was easier to see, but they don't need to be gray. White is fine. I'll be using white. And then let's see, will I be able to make this fit on an 8.5 by 11? Oh, I'm not so sure. Maybe if I try putting the cloud here, I think I might have to rotate something. So I'm going to bring those in and let's see if I can go all the way down to 11, which is right around there. And whoops, my machine just kind of had a hiccup there. Let me try, I'm going to have to rotate something here. I'm going to rotate the cloud 90 degrees and bring it all the way out to that 8.5 by 11, and then I'm going to have to rotate the mittens as well. So I'm going to select the mitten and then rotate it again 90 degrees, and then bring that one up right there, and then select this one and rotate it 90 degrees as well. There we go. So now everything will fit. And I'm going to bring this in a little bit more and then bring up this bottom cloud in a little bit more. And that should be good. So I'm at 10 and pretty close to 8. Oh, maybe not. Nope, I'm going to bring this other cloud in just a little bit more because 8.5 will be there. And that should do it. Okay, so I'm going to select all of these 4 by dragging my mouse and creating that box, right-clicking in there and then selecting Attach. And I'm going to check this out a little bit deeper on my mat preview. Yeah, that should be good. Yeah. Okay. So, see, I'm cutting at the same time as I'm recording the video for you guys. Okay, so it looks good. I'm going to do the basic cut there, and it's on my 12 inch by 12 inch mat, and then I'm going to click Continue and wait for my machine to connect. Well, this one will just cut on as well the 80-pound cardstock setting, and it should be fine because it's just the shapes. And there it goes, and I'll load my mat, and I will meet you once again in the next video where we'll assemble it all together. This one turned out to be a bit long. All right, so thanks for cutting with me, and I'll see you in the next video for the assembly.